Hey guys, Romanian Reaper here. So I just got done watching Secret Invasion. This is of course the latest 6 episode event MCU series on Disney Plus, and one of the few that I've actually kept up with week to week as it actually aired. Well, I say week to week. I took a couple weeks off for holiday, so when I got back, I basically just had to catch up with the final 2 episodes. Thank God for the weekly release model and each episode having a recap. I can really sing the praises of the weekly release model in that regard. But in all seriousness, I was really looking forward to this. It sounded like a really cool, interesting, like paranoia, espionage thriller in the vein of like Cold War stories, which I love. And with the potential intrigue of you don't know who to trust because they could well be a skrull, like ripe with potentially like mature drama, which would be a major argument in the favor of the MCU growing up with its audience. And plus, it's a 6 episode series of Sam Jackson being Sam Jackson because it's centered on Nick Fury, so that's a win. But does the series live up to its promise? Let's find out. So in the show, Nick Fury has returned to Earth after several years in space following the blip. What he has returned to, as briefed to him by Maria Hill and Talos, is a plan for a skrull uprising led by insurgent Gravik. And Gravik's plan is for the Skrulls to take over the Earth and quietly infiltrate world governments, to claim a world as their own after Fury failed to deliver them a world to call home. So Fury and Talos set out to put a stop to Gravik's plan, calling along a few friends in the intelligence industry along the way. So yeah, this is kind of an interesting one because, well, I reviewed the first episode. Obviously, I quite liked it, and my sentiment largely is that is largely a fairly solid series. Like don't get me wrong, it doesn't ever quite live up to the intense paranoid potential of its premise, but there's plenty of intrigue it builds throughout, and some very satisfying little scroll reveals. You know, and it keeps up a decent sense of pace in that regard. It's a slow burner, let me just say, which is certainly not par for the course of the MCU, which is a welcome change of pace. Don't get me wrong, and it uses it decently enough to build up a fairly good sense of intrigue. Some points can feel kinda slow, but so there are certainly pacing issues here, but for the most part, I was engaged with it, and I didn't feel too bored by it or anything. And that's largely in part thanks to the solid enough writing that again delivers some solid scroll reveals, and as well as that, some like good character moments as well. There's some pretty strong character development here, particularly in regards to Fury. And yeah, Sam Jackson sells it really well. Get to that in a bit, but yeah, it's a fairly well written series overall. That there are some very clunky moments to be sure. Like there's a scene in like episode 4, I think it is, with Talos and his daughter Gaia, played by Emilia Clarke, on a park bench. Woof, that was like proper clunker. Probably needed a couple more rewrites, but overall it is solidly enough written. And helps as well, there's some fairly solid characters here to keep up with. As I mentioned, Samuel L. Jackson, once again, great as Nick Fury. He's still got it, he still kicks ass, but he also has that sort of emotional baggage of a man who is like emotionally clouded following the blip, and he's never quite been the same since. And that was a really interesting direction they took his character in. But yeah, you also get plenty of really satisfying badass Nick Fury moments. So yeah, can't wait to see more of him in the Marvels in November. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We also have the gift that keeps on giving, Ben Mendelsohn as Talos. Yeah, once again, he's really fun, and I loved his little dynamic with Fury. Yeah, one of the highlights of the Captain Marvel film, and yeah, it's played to great effect here. You know, they have a bit of a sort of friendly rivalry, some real fun bickering, and there's there's plenty of fun little. It's a fun little bromance almost like there's a great pairing. We also have a few newcomers to the series as well. We've got Olivia Colman as Sonya, you know, a fellow intelligence agent must like Fury. And I thought Olivia Colman was really fun in this role. Like she does this real fun good cop bad cop kind of thing, wherein she goes from being like your best friend to a ruthlessly efficient enemy, and and she is great. And her little professional rivalry with Fury was really fun to watch. And she also shares at one point a great heart to heart with Fury, which again she and Sam Jackson sell wonderfully. We also have Emilia Clarke as Gaia, and I really like her character. Yeah, she has a bit of a complex, estranged relationship with her father, and it's written really well as a potential motivator as to why she's like gone over to Gravik's side. But she also has a really interesting conflict where she is like basically serving as a mole for Talos and Fury. It she sells it really well. But I spent all this time talking up like well, not really talking him up, but I want to talk about Gravik because wow, he was a he was a really good villain. I really liked him. Kingsley Ben-Adir did a great job. He is rather than being like an overly showy like tough menace of a villain, he is like more of a sort of quiet menace who can like sort of smooth talk his way into getting what he wants through like sheer charisma and presence. And yeah, Kingsley Ben-Adir does it great. And honestly, the few moments where he does like burst out of these like sort of restraints, he sells it wonderfully with some real strong emotional revelations. Visually, the show is not quite up to the par with the way its characters are served. For one, the sort of cinematography, the directing, the editing, it all feels kind of workman like. And don't get me wrong, I'm not expecting a whole ton of like flair and pizzazz from this kind of story, but I would have liked a bit more like grit to it. I would have given it a style that would have really helped it stand out. But as it stands, it's fine. It does it serves its purpose, does its job, but isn't anything particularly special. The score is by Chris Byers is pretty decent, and there's even some solid visual effects for the skrull transformations. Yes, the CGI at times can be pretty ropey, so it's pretty hit or miss in that regard. But some of it does look pretty good. Although, with all of this in mind, I do kind of call into question the $212 million budget. Jesus, how did it cost this much? It looks like it cost at least half that. Like are Disney burning money at this point? Because like even the intro is AI generated. I talked about this in my review of my quick review of the first episode. Like, yeah, I have kind of come around on the AI intro, mainly because there were sort of VFX workers like actually working on it, so there was actually human labor involved. But yeah, it does, it is a sort of timely reminder of a potential AI takeover, which is obviously why the strikes are going on right now. And also aesthetically, it doesn't look great, to be honest. There's that, but with all that in mind, I did mostly enjoy the series. I was actually enjoying myself. I was engaged with it, and there were some fun little shock moments as well to add to all this to serve the stakes nicely. And then came the thing that I had my fingers crossed about, the finale. I was really hoping they would not shit the bed in the finale, and unfortunately they did. Yeah, the finale was pretty bad. Like, don't get me wrong, there are certainly some fun little character revelations here and there, and I gotta admit, the stuff with the president at the end was really good, and honestly, more scenes of the show needed the sort of paranoid vibe that stuff had, because it was great, and Dermot Mulroney was really allowed to shine then. He was a very good president. But yeah, the finale was pretty bad. Like, for the occasional decent character revelation and payoff, it unfortunately suffers from the usual Marvel thing of it has to cram so many payoffs into like a compressed runtime, and yeah, so it doesn't quite know what it wants to pay off, and it never quite feels like it pays off any of it satisfyingly. In fact, there's some stuff that straight up isn't paid off, and some stuff that they just kind of pull out of their ass because they wrote themselves into a corner. It's a shame, and what's also a shame is just how dumbed down the finale was. Like, Jesus. Like, that meme of of try not to do blank challenge, and in brackets impossible. Yeah, this is the Marvel try not to end a project with a big CGI fight involving two characters with similar powers challenge. Because yeah, the fact that they resorted to it at all is baffling and so out of place with the rest of the series, and it's so dumb, and it looks horrible. The CGI is at its absolute worst here. It looked horrendous. Again, putting into question the $212 million budget. But there were certainly some payoffs I kind of liked, and so it's not completely terrible, but it's such a waste of what was, in theory, a solid series. But yeah, define wasted potential, and that's this series, because it could have been something really great if they'd if throughout the show, throughout the 6 episodes, they had the vibe of the stuff at the end with the president. This could have been something potentially great. It could have been a very high ranking MCU series. Alas, it's decent enough. There's a fair amount of stuff I like, but I also have my share of issues with it. This is very much near the bottom of my MCU ranking, and that's a damn shame, because this could have been something very special. So overall, I'm gonna give Secret Invasion. I'm kind of torn between a 6 and a 6.5. I'm leaning a bit more towards a 6 though. 6.25 for the time being, while I figure out where my rating lanes, because this could have been great, but it didn't quite capitalize on its insane potential. So yeah, let me know down in the comments. Have you seen Secret Invasion? What do you think of it? What did you think of the finale? And what did you think of the big reveals of the series? And are you excited to see more of Nick Fury in the Marvels? Let me know all that down in the comments. Don't forget the thumbs up button if you enjoyed. Don't forget the subscribe button if you're new, and don't forget to turn on post notifications so you don't miss an upload.